So, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's a question people love to ask, isn't it? As if they're trying to gauge our ambitions and goals. For me personally, in 5 years, I just want to be alive. I've been through so much, and you really learn to appreciate the present and the moment and the gift of just being around, really. The last time I left you guys, we had just finished having triple lung surgery, and that was early 2021. Well, it wasn't long until we were back in hospital. This time, the tumor had returned in our neck, and this was late 2021, around October, I think it was. Um, Basically, I had a lot of pain in my neck. I couldn't press on it at all without there being excruciating pain. And this one actually dodged all the scans. It didn't come up on the MRI, which was very, very disappointing because maybe it could have got picked up a bit early. It must have just been in like a blind spot or something. But even after they found that the tumor was there, they went back and looked at the imaging and it wasn't there on the scans. It's quite terrifying, actually. Anyway, we went in for surgery, same surgeon as the first guy that operated on our neck. And from the risks of the first operation, we could have lost function on the right side of our face, which we had avoided. Now, this time, there wasn't any avoiding it. They had to cut too deep. There is a nerve that runs up your neck and then bridges into about 5 different nerves, each one controlling a different part of your face. Your ability to raise your eye, your ability to raise your cheek, your ability to frown, your ability to smile, and the control of your eye. They had to completely sever this time and take it out. And unfortunately, nerves don't grow back. Once they're out, they're gone. And I remember after the surgery, I was lying in ICU, and the doctor came to visit me, and he asked me to smile for him, which I did, and he basically said things along the line of, "Okay, it's gone," and I was like, "Huh? Like, what do you mean? Like, no, this can't possibly be happening to me. Like, there's no way that I've gone paralyzed in the side of my face." And I try to smile and I try to feel, and it wouldn't go up, it wouldn't move, and absolutely horrified. All my energy that I had at that point, I used to get out of bed and get over to the bathroom, which was incredibly painful, and it was a lot of effort because I was on mad medication and my body was just drained. I just had a really, really big operation where they cut really deep, and I managed to get into the bathroom, and I just remember grabbing the basin and pulling myself up and looking into the mirror, and I tried to move my face, and I couldn't. And I just stood there in absolute shocked silence for ages, trying to comprehend what I was seeing and what had happened to me. And there's no do-overs, there's no growing back, there's no therapy, that's it, this is how I am. And that was tough, and it's something I still struggle with sometimes, much less because it's been over 2 years now, but you really have to learn to love yourself again. You have to learn to appreciate yourself, and you have to learn to accept that you're now disfigured, and it's difficult. It's really, really difficult to come to terms with it. I remember just because now my eye is the biggest problem. Like the rest of it's you can deal with it, but all of a sudden, so basically the eye doesn't blink anymore, like at all. The only way I can close my eye is if both my eyes close together. I can't actually close this eye by itself. It doesn't squint or protect itself against wind, rain, or dust. So I've got to be very careful when I go out. I need to bring glasses, like if it's my sunglasses or my regular glasses, to protect it from everything. Really, it's crazy. That wasn't the end of it though. I Once I'd recovered a bit, I went back to the oncologist to get the results from the actual surgery, and then he told me that they didn't get all of it. The biopsy showed that there is still cancerous cells left in my neck, and they've operated so much now that they cannot operate again. And my only real chance of hope was to have incredibly hardcore chemo, like the most potent dose that my body could handle. It's so that was terrifying because I just lost my face, and now I learned that I was about to lose my life, or I was close to it. I was like, you spent all these years fighting cancer and having surgeries and this and that, and they're keeping you around, and all of a sudden you hear that you're actually in a lot of trouble when your oncologist says we really have our backs up against the wall and chemo is the last thing we can do for you. We're going to just hope it works. So I agreed to that. And I had 3 different types of chemo. I had the red one, which people talk about quite often as being a really, really nasty one. And it was mixed with 2 others. In total, I would sit in the chair for about 8 hours. I'd spend the entire day on the drip. Because I'd already had chemo in 2017, my body and my mind remembers how awful I'd felt. Now, this is no different, and it was so bad actually that I'd be throwing up before I even got into the hospital. I'd be throwing up in the parking lot on the way there. I dreaded the day completely. So the first time I had chemo, I had it once a week for 6 weeks because that was designed to help the radiation work a bit better. It was a much milder dosage. This time, however, it was the full 9 yards. I would go once every 3 weeks, 6 times. And the reason they do this is because your body's natural cell rotation rotates every 3 weeks, and it rotates a total of 6 times before it starts over. So the chemo process is actually designed to hit every cell cycle, and how radiation would target a specific area and just kill the cells in the targeted spot. Chemo attacks your entire body. It kills everything. And then they hope that all the good and natural cells would regenerate, and all the cancerous cells would die off. That is the theory behind chemotherapy. So we did this, and it was absolutely awful. If you are going on chemo, or if you're on it already, there's tons of help online about how you can get through it. The internet has so much good information that you can go, like for instance, I couldn't eat anything that had like much spices on it. I had to eat very bland food, so we'd pre-made like rice and chicken, like no spices or salts or anything on it, and mixed veg. And we'd had these little parcels of that in the fridge, and when it was time to eat, I would just take out one of those and warm it up and eat it very, very plain. It was the only thing that stayed down, like that. Dried toast. Rehydrates. I drank a lot of rehydrates to get the electrolyte count back up. And as for like entertainment purposes, like there's nothing to speak of really. If you feel so sick all the time, when I couldn't lie down for too long without starting to feel sick. You can't sit still without feeling sick. All I could do was just slowly move around our house and our garden in these small circles, and I would just walk around in these little circular motions until I was tired enough to go sleep. And that's like your life. So for the first week, I would spend at home, not doing anything. The second week, I would start working from home because I couldn't just take 4.5 months off from work. So, and then the third week, I would be back at work full time. So that's how I did it. It was 1 week at home, 1 week working from home, 1 week back at work, and then you'd start over. And we did this all the way until mid March. There, because of how bad my nausea was when it came to the chemo, I definitely hit a breaking point about halfway through. I got to the room. This was for dose number 4 out of 6, so it was halfway, and it took they took longer to start this morning because my heart results weren't back in time. The doctor hadn't cleared me for chemo because you get your heart tested in the morning, and then they got to make sure that you're actually healthy enough for it. And I just sat there throwing up, waiting to start, and they just weren't. They just weren't starting. I'd already thrown up like 8 or 9 times. I was sitting there for an hour and a half, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I got up and I said I was going to go wait outside. They can call me to come in because just the smell of the room set me off. And I went outside and I sat under the tree, and I broke down. I just started crying. I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't handle the lifestyle, the how terrible I felt every time. I wanted to give up. I wanted to go home. And I called my father to come and get me, or to come. I told him what was happening, and he left work right away, and he came and he sat with me on this little bench outside the oncology department. And I just cried and I said, please just take me home. Let's do this tomorrow instead. I can't do it today. I just can't do it. And he he was very, very supportive. I owe a lot to him for this day. He basically told me that I'd already ruined that day. It was already ruined for me. It was, if I'd waited for tomorrow, I would just ruin the next day too. We were already there. Let's just get it done. And he was gonna come in with me. So when they called me and said, okay, they're finally ready to start, he picked me up and basically dragged me back inside. I really didn't want to go. And he waited with me. He sat with me for that whole session, and I spent 8 hours throwing up, and he spent 8 hours craving a cigarette. But he sat there. And he came with me for the next one after that as well. He took off from work and he sat with me for chemo number 5 out of 6, and for the last one, my mother joined me. Um, I was also sent for therapy during this time because I was just so depressed. Um, one thing, the more I realized that I could die, the more I realized how much I wanted to live. And that was hard. Um, Realizing how much trouble you're in and how dangerous and dire the situation has become. And I wasn't dealing with it okay. This is probably the most depressed I've ever been in my life. So I was sent for therapy, and honestly, for me, therapy didn't work. I saw him about 3 or 4 times, and then I stopped seeing him. But I managed to get through the whole thing. just with the support of friends and family. And so we pushed through, and we finished all 6 sittings of the chemo. And as much as we wanted to give up a lot, we pushed through, and we finished the cycle. After that, about a month later in April, I had a scan which I hadn't had yet before. It was the PET scan. And what the PET scan does is you get injected with the sugary substance, and then that searches through your body and attaches itself to any cancerous cells that are left. And then you get scanned, and any cancer would get highlighted as luminous yellow. And for me, the scan was completely clear. Like, I didn't have any cancer cells left in my body. And that was such a happy meeting at the oncologist when he told us this. I felt like I'd beaten this thing, you know. It had been 5 years at this point, and we'd gone through so many surgeries and so much treatment. We were sitting at a total of 5 surgeries, 2 seasons of chemo, radiation, uh, countless different scans, needles, blood tests, and it felt like it was finally over. We celebrated by going on holiday again. My friend and I, we did a Euro trip. We started in Rome, and then we went to Budapest. From there, we went to Prague, Amsterdam afterwards. Then my friend went back home to the UK where he is from, and I went down to see another really good friend of mine who lives in Luxembourg, and I had the best of time. I really did. You really, really learn to just appreciate the good things in life and the memories. And I heard something that's so powerful and accurate, which says when you're lying in your bed at your end of your life, you know, it's not all the money you've made or the corporate success that you've found that gives you true happiness. It's the memories you've made and the time you spent with your loved ones. And that's something that I really try to hold on to, where I favor memories and experiences over money and status. I think it's so important to just realize what lasts and what matters at the end. And we learned so much lessons, and as horrible as it all was to go through, I hope that my journey and experiences can maybe somehow help or influence anyone who's maybe watching this, and help me a bit to spread my story. Hit the like and subscribe button. Help me create visibility so that other people can watch this and maybe learn a thing or two. Unfortunately, though, the cancer didn't stay away forever. It did come back again, which I will cover in part 4. But until then, keep safe, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to have a chat. See ya.